And welcome to this week's segment of the Roar Rundown Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gay, joined by my co-hosts, Zach Cloud and Weston Bailey. Thank you for joining us. So, this week, not the best week in regards to Ouachita football. Ouachita football on Saturday suffered their first loss of the season, 41-10 at Harding. And it's always interesting to see whenever we get to play against Harding, because Harding plays with this old school brand of football, and they had 427 rushing yards. And do you want to know how many passing yards they had? 0. That just blows my mind when it comes to modern day 21st century football, is that a team, a Division II collegiate team that is actually the best team in the conference by record, is able to not complete a single pass. Their one pass was an interception, and they still win the game by 31 points. It just kind of blows my mind. But when you are running and getting 7 yards and a rushing attempt, I mean that's pretty good. And then I wrote it down somewhere, but I think there were like 8 different players that had rushing attempts for Harding. Yeah, I did say 8 separate players rushed. 6 of those players had 5 yards per carry or better. And I don't think they had anybody with more than 18 carries, which was Blake De La Cruz. 18 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. And it's always interesting to see how a quarterback gets 15 carries and 83 yards and attempts 1 pass. But regardless, Harding played a great game. I mean, they were solid on all 3 fronts, especially that defense was solid. A couple guys that I wanted to mention, Zach Strickland and Nate Wallace, were 2 guys that really stuck out. Wallace especially had 2.5 sacks. Now, I have a good friend of mine that goes to Harding, and we were talking a little bit of trash to each other the week coming up to this game. And, yeah, I think that's maybe why we lost, is because of the trash I was talking. So Coach Knight and the entire Ouachita football roster, I do take responsibility for that loss, because it seems like every time I talk trash, no matter what it is, I lose. My team loses. So my bad. Yeah, but anyway, I mean, I will say, I know we're talking, Ouachita lost, and boo-hoo. But I do have to say there is one bright spot, and that is Kendall Givens. Now, he did not have a touchdown, a rushing touchdown, or any touchdown this week. Every Ouachita fan was hoping, because he's just 2 rushing touchdowns away from breaking the all-time rushing touchdown record for Ouachita. And he didn't score, but he did have 146 yards on the ground on 23 carries for about 6 yards a carry. So he was definitely the bright spot. And what I was hearing from, and I did not attend the game, but what I was seeing was on their broadcast was that he would just plow right ahead for a bunch of yards. That offensive line was really opening up space for him. But it's one thing to be dominant on the ground, but it's a whole different situation if you can't get anything going from the air, if y'all want to talk about sort of the struggles that Ouachita had.
Yeah, it really looks like we went about the game, with the kind of same mindset as we do against most teams. Like we didn't really stray away from our bread and butter of the whole entire season. Riley Harms still had 27 passes, which is a pretty big number this year, especially compared to last year. He's been throwing the ball more all season, but he only completed 13 of those passes, just about half of them. And Connor Flanagan, he had 8 catches. That's about what he averages, but he only went for 38 yards, which is a lot less than usual. And he didn't score also, which is another difference. Usually he scores at least 1 touchdown every game. And it was just really hard to get our other guys involved.
I think this is the first time all season I mean, judging based on Kendall Givens' performance, the offensive line, their run blocking was phenomenal. It seems like all game. And this is kind of the first week that we've seen them really struggle in the other area, which is pass blocking. I mean, Riley Harms was sacked 4 times, which, I mean, isn't like an insane number, but compared to what we're used to seeing from this Ouachita offensive line, it's hard to win a game like that, especially when the offense is struggling to move the football. I mean, that just kills drives. And I think this is an anomaly. I really don't think that there should be any reason to be panicked by this offensive line because it has been awesome all year, and we've talked about it since day one. So I think those guys are just going to look to get back at it, have Riley's back moving forward, and I know that Riley is looking forward to making plays for those guys as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. You don't press the panic button. There's no reason. Harding, everybody knew that this was going to be a tough game. I don't think anybody realized that the score would be what it is, but everybody knew that Harding was going to be possibly the biggest test for Ouachita all season long. And I know Henderson's the last game of the season, but Harding gave Henderson their first loss of the season. So we knew that Harding was going to be tough, and even though they have this weird just run offense with a bunch of different guys, I mean, they did it well, and they did it well last year as well. But and a couple names I wanted to mention on the defense that played really well. Kenta Jones, Josiah Johnson, and Jackson Miller all had double-digit tackles. You're not going to see anybody get past deflections against Harding, even though we did have an interception. But and that was by Stephen Weston. He got the lone interception, and then Dante Gibson also had a fumble recovery. So just a couple names to mention there. And then so we're going to go ahead and switch into women's soccer. So they also played Harding, and it was on Wednesday, and it was also in Searcy. Now, Ouachita women's soccer, they fared a little bit better against the Bisons. They did not take a win, but they did come away with a tie. And just briefly looking, it was a 0-0 tie, and there's not much I can really say about it. I mean, Ouachita had 9 shots, 2 of them on goal. Harding had 10 shots, 1 on the goal, and the fouls weren't off the charts. I mean, it was just as even as you can get it, and that's why it ended 0-0. I'm not a soccer expert, so I don't know what else I can say about this, but we'll go ahead and switch to something a little bit more exciting, and that is Ouachita men's tennis. So I think it was maybe last week or the week before. No, it was both weeks. I had mentioned that Ouachita was sending some representatives to the ITA Cup in Rome, Georgia, and initially I was under the impression it was just Fernando Doctors and Ramon Strassman, but it was also Phil Exner and Alex Blanchard, and both of all 4 performers advanced to the semifinals in the ITA Cup, with Doctors, Strassman teaming up, and then Exner and Blanchard teaming up as well. They all got wins on Thursday and Friday. This event is actually, and we're filming on a Monday, this event is actually still going on today, but Ouachita, their match ended on Saturday after Exner lost a singles match, and then also lost a doubles match. Both tandems lost doubles on Saturday. And actually, Doctors and Strassman lost a doubles match against Harding. So we can't seem to get away from the Bisons. But regardless, it was a very good performance by these Tigers, and obviously representing the school very well. So men's soccer, again, they played Harding. They lost 1-4. This was on Thursday. And actually, this game was pretty even, too. I know the score not so even, but 19 shots by Ouachita, 9 shots on goal. That's actually some of the better numbers we've seen all season. Ouachita's had their struggles getting it going on offense, and it was definitely a game that I think they can look back on, and it's like, yeah, we got 1 goal, but how many times are we getting over 15 shots? So Harding also had 17 shots. They had 6 on goal. Both teams fouled quite a bit, but I will say that Harding's defense stepped up, especially around the goal, as they had 8 saves, which if that wasn't there, I think the score would have been a lot different. So, Sebastian Rios scored the lone goal for Ouachita, which is actually his first goal of his career with Ouachita. So, also have Ouachita volleyball. They played both Thursday and Friday in Oklahoma. They first started in Ada, Oklahoma against ECU, where they lost in 4 sets. I'll let you all sort of talk about that one, but it was pretty kind of clear as to why we lost, especially around that hitting percentage.
You hit the nail on the head. .108. That is not the number that you're looking for, obviously, and it's actually the exact opposite of what we're used to seeing. I feel like every time we're comparing, hitting percentages, OBU is almost always, in the green in that category, almost always above their opponent, regardless win or loss. And when you have 3 ECU players with double-digit kills, it just looked like that ECU got the momentum early on, and we just weren't quite able to grasp it and get it back from them. I mean, obviously we were able to take 1 set from them, and our stars still played well. Riley Brazil 8 kills, 5 service aces, 2 block assists. Emily Adams with 6 kills and 2 block assists. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't seem to go our way in Oklahoma on Thursday.
Yeah, and then our second game, it was also, we lost, like Chris said, we lost in 4 sets, but I think that doesn't really actually show how close it really was, because our first 2 losses, we lost both of our first sets, or the first and second set, by 2 points each. So that's like neck and neck. And then we were able to win the third one, and then the fourth one got away from us. They pulled away in Southeastern Oklahoma State. They won the 4th set by 9, but our shooting percentages were just about the same, 23% to 25%. But Southeastern Oklahoma State, they had 3 players with double-digit kills. So shout out to them. It's going to be hard to beat somebody if they have their guys playing that well. But like Weston said, for the first game, our stars, they still showed out, and they played well for the second game. Emily Adams had 13 kills, Leah Gardner had 12 kills, and Riley Brazil, she showed up with 11 kills, and Haley Fairchild, she had 8 kills. So our girls, they played well, but they just weren't able to get the job done on Friday.
Well, with the Savage Storm, I think it was pretty clear as to why we lost, and that was Denari Mills. She just torched Ouachita with 19 kills, 22 total points. So just doing a little bit of everything for Southeastern. But we'll go ahead and transition into a squad that found a lot of success this past weekend, and that was actually Ouachita men's and women's swim and dive squads. They swept Missouri St. Louis at home on Saturday. The men won by 59 total points, and if you don't understand swimming and dive scoring, just it's a cumulative score. Everything is added up, and all the events, all the finishes, and the men scored 146.5, and for the Tritons, they scored 87.5. The women also had a big win, 128 to 103. So Ouachita, they won 17 out of 26 total events. They had 29 total players going in the second or third finishes, but they had a bunch of guys and girls that were able to win out a bunch of different events. So Tyler Andrus won the 1,000 freestyle, and he won by almost 7 whole seconds, and then which doesn't sound like a lot, but in swimming that is quite a bit. Sam Ragsdale won the men's 50 freestyle and the 100 freestyle. Miles Schultz won the 100 breaststroke. Carson Powers won the 1 meter dive and the 3 meter dive. And then there were a couple medley relays going on. Ethan Sparks, Miles Schultz, Elijah Christensen, and Sam Ragsdale won the 200 medley relay. And then David Ware, Ian Redmond, Alex Schultz, and Fernando Castillo won the 200 freestyle relay. In the women, Dee Dee Christensen won the women's 50 freestyle and the 100 freestyle. Rachel Del Angel won the 100 butterfly. Kelly Holcomb won the 200 individual relay and also won the 100 backstroke. Anna Phelps won the 200 freestyle, the women's 500 freestyle. Abigail Connard won the 1 meter dive, and Bella Howell won the 3 meter dive. that was a lot to name off. But it was a very successful weekend, and they will play again this coming weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Women's soccer, they didn't stop there. They also played and won at home against East Central, and this was on Saturday. They beat them 2-0. And again, the stats are pretty much exactly the same. Both teams shot 9 times. Both teams had 2 saves, and both teams didn't foul very much, but Ouachita still had 2 goals. Fernanda Valencia and Hattie Gardner both scored goals in this game, but it was definitely good, especially coming off a tie, a scoreless tie, that is, at Harding. Definitely good to get back into the win column, especially taking their first loss just about a week ago. So men's soccer, they fell to Northeastern State at home on Saturday, 0-3. But despite the loss, we did get to honor some seniors that day, considering it was senior day for men's soccer. Joseph Ladier, he started every game the last 2 seasons, and he was also the men's most outstanding scholar athlete of the year. Hagen Sanchez, he started all the games in his time at Ouachita except for one. He's a 2-time GAC All-Academic team. And then Marshall Prather, he has 3 goals on the season, and he's a 2-time GAC All-Academic team, is on the All-Academic team. Eben Jordan has 3 goals as well on the season. He was the named team MVP last year. And then Eli Jenkins is a 2-time GAC All-Academic teamer. So just wanted to give, a little brief shout out to all those. They've worked really hard in their time and at Ouachita, and definitely always great to see that, they are student athletes, so they're doing well in the classrooms, all of them, all academics. But when you look at the stats for this game, we won't go too deep into it, but obviously the score was 0-3. And actually, considering the fact that the Riverhawks shot 24 times, they only got 2 goals out of it, I say that's pretty good. The big issue is Ouachita only shot twice. 1 time shot on goal. And we said, in the previous game against Harding, their offense looked pretty good. It struggled. This is not the first time we've seen sort of statistics like this. So, but last home game of the season, not really what they wanted, but they are still searching for that first win. So that was all that we were sort of recapping. So we'll go ahead and do the Tiger Prowl preview. So women's soccer, they will be first up to play, and they will travel to Alva, Oklahoma to play the Rangers of Northwestern Oklahoma State, who only have 1 win on the season. And interesting enough, their 1 win is at home, so we'll see if that has any indication. And they have not lost at home. They have 4 ties as well. So we'll see if that has anything to do with anything in that game. That will be Wednesday at 4 p.m. Ouachita Volleyball, they host Oklahoma Baptist, who is number 3 in the GAC standings. That will be Thursday at 6 p.m. Now, something to look forward to, or something to think about with Oklahoma Baptist. They are 4-6 in away games, but all 4 of their wins have been against GAC opponents, so that may not have really any indication. Most of these teams have been playing non-conference to start the season anyway. Men's soccer, they tried to avenge their last 2 losses when they traveled to Fort Hays State in Hays, Kansas, and they are number 3 in the GAC/MIAA poll, and that will be Thursday at 7 p.m. Men and women's tennis, they will have their GAC Fall Championships at Russellville from Friday to Saturday. And for tennis, I don't know if it's for all collegiate tennis, but at least for GAC tennis, this is just sort of their fall season. They have a handful of tournaments, and then they take a nice long break and then pick it up maybe in like February or March. So, but they look to do well at that tournament this weekend. OBU Swim and Dive, They host Delta State this weekend, actually this Friday at 1 p.m. Delta State's coming off a win in both their men and their women's swim and dive teams, so that's something to sort of look at. Ouachita volleyball, they will host Southern Nazarene this Friday at 4 p.m. And what's interesting about that, first of all, Southern Nazarene is a fantastic volleyball team. They're 13-8 this season. They are struggling on the road, only have 2 wins on the season on the road. But what's interesting about that is that it will be part of a dual broadcast that OSDN is doing. So I will be on the call along with Chase Hartzell, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the swim and dive game, which is at 1 o'clock. We're going to do that first. Those games usually take maybe 4 hours. They just have so many different events they go through, and then you have the final results at the end. So we'll broadcast that, and I think in basically the same sitting, we're going to immediately pick up with volleyball. And
busy day.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy day. I think we might try a split screen action, and because by the time the volleyball game starts, swimming's probably still going to be going on, and everybody will want to know the results of that swimming match. So we'll see. Not really sure exactly how it's going to go, but I know it's going to be an interesting evening. So men and women's cross country, they will be at their GAC championships at Russellville on Saturday. And, of course, both squads have had very successful seasons so far, so I'm really interested. And they've been playing well against other GAC teams, so I'm really interested in seeing how they do at these in Russellville. Women's soccer, they will host Southwestern Oklahoma State, who only has 2 wins on the season. That will be Saturday at 11 a.m. And then men's soccer, after playing in Hays, Kansas, they're going to go to Wichita, Kansas to face Newman University. They only have 3 wins on the season, so they're definitely hoping that maybe they can get a win against both Kansas squads. And, this will be it basically for them if they want any sort of shot at postseason play. I don't know if they'll get it. I think it's just the top 4 teams that are able to make it in, but at least, end the season on a high note, especially with those 5 seniors on that roster. That will be Saturday at 1 p.m. And then finally, Ouachita football will host Arkansas Tech University 1 p.m. on Saturday. That is going to be a game to look out for sure. Ouachita, they're going to be out for blood. I mean, it's pretty clear they're not used to being blown out that bad. Ouachita football's lost games, but they haven't lost that much. And they certainly haven't lost by 31 points, at least since I've been here. So at least in the regular season, that is. So Arkansas Tech, they might be a little scared right now, but we'll see. It's going to be an interesting matchup. So, but yeah, if y'all want to say anything else about that,
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they are definitely taking the loss last week personal. I don't think Coach Knight takes losses in general very well, but especially a blowout loss on the road. I think he prides himself on being able to win on the road, and so I think that was kind of shocking to the whole team. But let's just make this clear. This is not a get-me-over game at all. Arkansas Tech is 3-4, and they started off the season terribly, but they've won their last 3. I mean, they're on a 3-game win streak. This team is hot right now. And, I mean, you see it in football all the time. If a team's hot at the right time, they can compete with anybody, right? So, I mean, this is not a game that is just going to be a gimme for Ouachita. They're going to have to play clean, sound football, get back to the basics, do what they do well. And I actually think it'll be a pretty good game.
Yeah, and Weston's exactly right. Because it's not a gimme game, I think this is a perfect game for us to get back on our feet. I think it's somebody we can beat pretty well and we can beat convincingly, but also at the same time, like it's a good opponent that, you have to respect. So I think we'll be able to really expose them. We'll be able to get back on track. And, before too long, we'll be playing against Henderson. And speaking of Henderson, they just lost this past week to SAU in a close one, 35-34. So I was able to catch some of that game across the street. SAU came in and was able to come away with a win. So that was big for division standings. Harding kind of the clear-cut number one right now, but OBU's got a loss, but Henderson's got two losses. They lost to Harding and SAU, which earlier in the season OBU beat SAU 52-24, if I'm not wrong. So, Ouachita can definitely still get the number 2 seed as long as they beat Henderson, which it's going to be a great game, but it'll be here before too long, and I think we'll definitely be able to take care of business against Henderson. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, Ouachita loss is always hard, but as long as Henderson State loses, that makes it a little bit better. All right, so we usually don't do a GAC overachiever segment, but I did see some news. Keelan Harris, who is a former Oklahoma Baptist wide receiver, he has been added to the Atlanta Falcons practice squad as of October 11th. He spent time with the Falcons in the offseason before he was cut during final roster cuts. And this is because the team needs, they need some more receiver depth, and they've had some injuries and general inconsistency in their receiving core, and they're not a team that I think they're 3-3 on the season or something like that, with a second-year struggling quarterback. So maybe this is an opportunity for Harris, barring any injuries, to get on the field, which would be great, considering he has not done that in a regular season game yet. Well, the NBA preseason has been going on, and it's actually about to come to an end, and I think maybe tonight, maybe the last night of games. But the regular season is going to begin. I think it's a great idea to remind people that we had a former Tiger, a former Ouachita Tiger play in the NBA. It's uncommon to hear that, especially considering that when this former Tiger played, Ouachita was not Division II. They were NAIA, which, you have Division I, II, III, then you have NAIA. And he was actually drafted into the NBA and played 2 seasons. Now, we've had several players come out of the NFL or come into the NFL. Of course, Cliff Harris is a NFL Hall of Famer. Gregory Jr. is currently on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we had other guys like Julius Pruitt and Philip Supernall, but you never hear about the NBA. And that's because Tom Patterson played from 1972 to 1973 in the NBA, and he was a 6'6" power forward originally. He was born in Midland, Texas, but went to Camden High School in Arkansas. And he enrolled originally at OBU for Coach Bill Vining in 1966. Bill Vining is who the basketball arena is named after. And he actually, after his freshman year, Patterson joined the U.S. Army and served 3 years and 1 year of duty in Vietnam, which I imagine that was something that a lot of college, not just athletes, but students did. But you don't hear about that with guys that actually ended up going pro, not very often. So he returned in 1970 after serving his country, and he became a 2-time All-AIC player. And the AIC is no longer a conference anymore, but it stood for the Arkansas Intercollegiate Conference. That actually included University of Central Arkansas, Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think Arkansas Tech may have been in it. Really, well, all Arkansas schools. I mean, that's exactly what it was. But he was also a NAIA All-American as a senior. He averaged 25 points and just under 15 rebounds. And he was selected by the Baltimore Bullets, now the Washington Wizards, in the second round of the 1972 NBA draft. So he played in 29 games as a rookie. And it's always great to say that he played alongside 2 Hall of Fame bigs in Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld. And he averaged about 2.5 points per game. Now, in his second season, he only played in 2 games before being cut, but he did join briefly with the ABA's New York Nets, which would eventually become the New Jersey Nets of the NBA when they were absorbed, and then eventually the Brooklyn Nets. So he passed away too young at the age of 33, but he has been since recognized in 2015 as a member of the OBU Athletics Hall of Fame. And then one guy that I just saw had popped up, he's a former Razorback. I don't know if he played more than just a couple games with the Razorbacks before he transferred down to the Division II level with Arkansas Tech, but he's also spent time with Oral Roberts and Incarnate Word, and then, of course, 3 seasons in Russellville, averaging about 18 points per game in those 3 seasons. And he currently plays for a Greek team, and he's only played in 2 games. Actually, I think they have their next game, just looking at their schedule, I think Wednesday. But he's averaged about 13.5 points overseas in Greece, and, just
nice.
Yeah, so... And you know what? I didn't even ask a question to open up this segment, but if y'all have any...
I got one.
You got one? All right,
I'll save this. I think this will be interesting because we're all from different areas.
Okay.
But favorite fried chicken spot?
Ooh.
Anywhere that you just like, you got Chick-fil-A, Cane's, Zaxby's, I guess Wendy's has tenders. Anywhere that, chicken tenders.
I'm not getting fried chicken at Wendy's. I'm
me
sorry.
Either. Oh, I'm just saying. So, hey,
yeah, no.
Whatever your thing is, you know what I mean?
All right.
And why, I guess.
Okay, well, I mean, since you're asking, what's yours?
I think I'm definitely going Cane's. I think
That's a good one.
I think Cane's. I really just like their tenders in general. Honestly, I'm a big carbs guy. Their bread that comes with the chicken.
They have some great bread.
It's really darn good.
Zach, what about you?
Yeah, I've got 2 spots, Cane's and Chick-fil-A. They're definitely my clear-cut top 2. I love Chick-fil-A just because we get like $1 million to spend every semester.
It helps we have one here.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have one here, and I eat there every week, but I still never get tired of it. So that's how I know I really like Chick-fil-A. But Cane's, that's definitely my spot to go. They have some here in Arkansas. They've got some in Little Rock. That's not too far. But, yeah, I'm not huge on sauce. I'm not a big sauce guy, but Cane's, when I go to Cane's, I always have to make sure I get their cane sauce. So that's what kind of sets them apart to me. So I really love their chicken, and like you said, their bread, that's also really good. So
Yeah, I used to not be a sauce guy. I'm not really into the Chick-fil-A sauce as much as I used to be, but the cane sauce, it's just a given. You got to have it. And, no, I totally agree. There's nothing wrong with that. But I got to give a little shout-out, and I know they're not just in Arkadelphia, but Chicken Express, pretty good. And they're really quick. That's something, and they're really consistent, and that's just something that just kind of always stuck out to me. But also, they have the best corn nuggets in the world. I mean, those are to die for. Man, those are some good things.
yeah, it's funny you say that because my freshman year I worked there for a few months.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of help pride myself on that. The good
Yeah.
service you always get. Because it's true as far as Arkadelphia goes. I think they're about the best service you're gonna get. And Chicken Express is definitely really good at taking care of you. They're always giving you extra food, more than you order, and stuff like that. Taking care of their customers. So, yeah, Chicken Express definitely deserves that shout out.
All right. Well, you actually inspired me to come up with my own question. All right. So you've been here, Zach, you've been here at Ouachita for 3 years. I've been here for 4. And Weston, you've been here now in your 2nd year. What's your favorite spot to eat in Arkadelphia?
Hands down, not even thinking twice, Burger Barn. That they have a fried chicken sandwich that I just pour gravy over to die for. It's awesome. I'm from Texas. It gives me a kind of Texan vibe, kind of food that I would get back home, kind of like a Texas Roadhouse knockoff, but still just as good. I mean, I wouldn't say knockoff because it's worse. It's just not as big, obviously. The service in there is always great. The sweetest ladies, you'll ever encounter in Arkadelphia are always serving there, and I think they have such a variety on their menu between salad and hamburgers, chicken fried steak, chicken. I mean, it's just the spot. It's just the spot.
Yeah, I agree. I like Burger Barn a lot too. One of my favorite spots to go to, I would say, is what we were talking about earlier, Chicken Express. I like to go sit in there and get some food there. But Also, some of my favorite food in Arkadelphia, I usually don't eat in here, but if I go to Tasty Hibachi, I love Tasty Hibachi.
Yeah.
But usually I'll grab that to go. I'll get some because they, like Chicken Express, Tasty Hibachi gives you so much food. They almost make it hard to finish it all in one sitting. So they definitely take care of you whenever you get food from there.
Well, that was exactly what I was going to say. I also like, they're not technically in Arkadelphia, but Los Agaves in Caddo Valley. Of course, they used to be in Arkadelphia before they moved, and they're pretty quick, sort of Mexican place. Every small town has a Mexican restaurant.
We have a few.
Yeah, we do have a couple
I
here.
think all of ours are pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
The one on the way to Walmart on the left, actually kind of by Burger Barn.
There's Walking Taco.
That place is pretty good.
And
But
then
there's the
also
actual restaurant, El Ranchito.
Yeah.
That place is really good, too.
And then El Perion.
That's probably my
Yeah.
favorite too.
Yeah, but
And another place in Cal that's really good that it was actually number one for me for a long time is Fat Boys. That place
Yeah.
is really good. That's like my family's favorite spot,
Yeah.
so that's where we're always
that is a
going.
good place. I'll add Golden Walk because I have a thing for just Asian cuisine in general. So obviously Tasty Hibachi, love it. And I haven't had Tasteful Hibachi.
Yeah, I've never had Tasty.
I think they're owned by the same people, and obviously the name is not too far off. But Tasty Hibachi is great, and service is pretty quick too. But Golden Walk is another place that they give you a lot of food, especially if you order it to go. They do give you more food to go than if you eat in. I don't know why, but that's just what I discovered recently. So, man,
So pretty much, if you're traveling on Highway 30 in either direction and you get hungry, stop in Arkadelphia. We got whatever you need.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really right in the same area. You mentioned Hamburger Barn, Golden Walk, and Tasty Hibachi. They're all not even like half a mile, not even like
Including El
0.2
Ranchito.
miles.
That's right there,
El
too.
Ranchito's right there as well, and Walking Taco.
And Walking Taco.
And then,
the donut. We have a donut store
Donut
right there.
Palace.
Donut Palace.
Yeah, and then if you wanted fast food, you got Burger King's over
Yep.
there.
Burger
And
King,
And that's all within
McDonald's,
not even a
Wendy's.
half mile. I mean,
yeah, no, it's right there in that spot. Of course, it's all along Pine Street, which is the main street running through Arkadelphia. So definitely, there's not a lot of places to eat in Arkadelphia, but the places that we
Good
do
variety.
have, oh yeah, it is good limited variety, but good food regardless, and great people, of course. So that's going to do it for us here this week. So make sure you tune in next week for episode number 9 of this podcast. So thank you again for tuning in. Stay safe and go Tigers.